Alright, so Marvel Zombies, which came out last week, was really something. Not sure what, but Marvel was sitting on something that could have been insane, like S tier, unforgettable MCU content, and it was right there. It had all the groundwork, the new lineup of characters they chose, the shock value, the darker tone, but it didn't really hit all that hard for me. So, Marvel Zombies, in my opinion, was almost really good. And when I say almost, I mean it had the potential to be as good as Loki or WandaVision, the kind of show you still talk about for years, but instead, it feels more like a that was cool kind of moment. And trust me, before you attack me, it's not all bad, but I just have my critiques on it. So, before you attack me, in today's video, I'm gonna break it down and tell you my point of view.
Get your special sock out, nerds. It's gonna get good.
So the setup, this one actually picks up years after the outbreak we saw in What If. The world's already gone, it's a pure wasteland now, and right now we're dropped into it with Kamala Khan as basically the viewpoint character. She's with a couple other survivors like Shang-Chi, Katie, Yelena, Red Guardian, Kate Bishop, etc. Blade's here too, which is cool on paper. I'm happy we're finally getting some Blade content. And the goal for these survivors is pretty simple. Survive the apocalypse, maybe find a cure, and don't get eaten by zombified Avengers. And I'm sure you could tell from the title that this is probably about the Avengers, or if you saw the What If episode where this all rooted from, then you know I'm literally talking about all the Avengers being zombies. Like Wanda is basically the Queen of the Dead now. She's not just scary like she is in the normal universe, she is straight nightmare fuel here. Even other zombies avoid her. Then we got slight cameos of other Avengers who turned. They're still using their powers like Iron Man or Captain America, which I feel is really twisted, and it hits. And I do like the detail that they're not just brainless, they're still using their powers. That makes it way more unsettling and it keeps the tension up while you watch it. But to shift focus to the survivors, and this is where I think the show kind of shines, Kamala's innocence is being tested in all of this. It gave the story a little bit more personality, like she's trying to be herself, still trying to bring some heart into the absolute nightmare. Same with the others, Yelena and Red Guardian, their dynamic was pretty funny. Shang-Chi was holding it down for the rest of the team, and Valkyrie felt like a warrior that was actually fit for this kind of story, which makes me think they've been wasting her in the MCU all this time. And you still do get heroic moments that are sprinkled into the cracks of the chaos. Like Blade, the way he operates in the zombie apocalypse, that's just perfect casting. And then there's the whole Carmitage section, which sets up one of the darkest twists. Vision was feeding people to Wanda back in What If. Now Wanda's fully manipulating reality again and pulling illusions, trapping people in them. That's kind of the defining horror the whole series needed more of, in my opinion. And here's the thing. The series had some really cool visuals. The animation team went nuts with the gore, the fight scenes, and some kills that were genuinely shocking. Like you'll see someone get torn apart and it's different, but I'm happy they actually went there. That's something Marvel usually pulls back on, but here they let it ride. And if I give the show anything, I'll say that it didn't ride too much on nostalgia. There are references, but it's not just those moments. But at the same time, Wanda as the Queen of the Dead felt undercooked. Don't get me wrong, she's terrifying as she should be, but it's like the show kept stacking cold moments instead of actually developing them. As you're watching it, you should want to have the motivation to know more, but they don't exactly give you that much room to think. So it just kind of keeps moving. This isn't Avengers Endgame, so I get it, but still. Now that I'm done appeasing to the audience, this is where Marvel Zombies drops the ball. 4 episodes, that's all we got, which is not enough time to explore what it really means to live in this world and develop the story. Imagine if we saw how people adjusted, or even if it leaned harder into the horror side of things instead of kind of just played it out like a highlight reel. Boom, zombie Wanda. Boom, she's doing what we know her to do. Boom, important characters die one by one. Cool, but it's nothing new for Marvel. It's not very experimental, although the show itself is. And then, like I said, the tone again was all over the place. One minute it's dark horror, people are literally getting ripped apart, and the next it's Marvel quick comedy. Like I said, I appreciated Kamala's character, but the cracking jokes was not needed in certain areas. Red Guardian not taking it seriously, which is expected but not needed, like I said. It didn't know if it wanted to be a heavy horror or light Marvel fun, and that made it weaker. So that's the only critique I would give the tone. If it had more of a defining feel, then it'd be easier to fight for. Now the ending is where I was kind of at a loss. So in Marvel Zombies, the survivors finally made it to Carmitage. They link up with Spider-Man, Scott Lang, whose head is in a jar, which is weird but memorable, Valkyrie, Shang-Chi, etc. The villain is Queen of the Dead, Wanda Maximoff. With all her zombie army, she's going for the Infinity Stone's power, which is being held by the other version of Hulk, Infinity Hulk. They try to defend Hulk. Things are brutal. Heroes fall one by one. It's instant though. Time runs out and Wanda pushes through, grabs the power. Then she offers Kamala to join her and help her save this broken world. Kamala, after all the heartbreak and seeing all her friends die, she gives in. She takes Wanda's hand, big energy bursts, blinding lights, etc., etc. Kamala wakes up back in New Jersey and everyone looks alive. Kate Bishop, Ironheart, her family, everything's normal. They even go out to show how normal life is now. But then the cracks start to show. Kamala sees flickers of zombie faces and moments of the undead. And Riri, who maybe survived thanks to something she did earlier in the show, she shows up fighting off zombies and she calls out that none of this is real. Kamala realizes she didn't save anything and she actually lost. The world is still crap and Wanda has just trapped her in an illusion. The series ends with a shot of the Queen of the Dead with no big rescue. The heroes failed. But this is where I actually give the writers a pat on the back because I don't hate the ending. The potential for this was massive. The setup with Infinity Hulk, with Wanda as Queen of the Dead, with Kamala pushed to her breaking point, all that was good writing. I like that it went fully grim, fully apocalyptic, because this energy isn't common in Marvel. They also made Kamala the emotional core in a way that felt earned. Her choices, seeing everyone lose, confronting Wanda, being offered what looks like hope, the tension was just really good. And it could have been more predictable, but it wasn't. But it still didn't go far enough. 4 episodes just isn't enough to deeply explore the fallout of Wanda's victory. So many arcs are compressed, and some of the deaths are powerful, but feels almost like checklist items. And Blade could have been pushed further. He was definitely a smart element of the show. Or, for example, Infinity Hulk. Cool in concept, but didn't always land emotionally. The series has to ride the horror and give breathing room, or else moments start to blur. Infinity Hulk became forgettable. Also, that illusion ending is strong, but because there's so little time, some of Kamala's internal struggles, some of the consequences only feel halfway shown. You don't get to live in the horror enough. If we had another 2 to 3 episodes, they could have shown what happened after Wanda won and how Kamala breaks the spell. That would have taken this from almost to legendary. So Marvel Zombies was almost really good. It gave us some really cool looking visuals, brutal moments, and a brutal flip ending where Kamala realizes saving the world was never possible on her terms, but it was too short, too rushed, and too uneven in tone. And the worst part is, we know what this story could be, the horror and the stakes and the heartbreak. It's all there, they just didn't go all the way. And if it gets to season 2, it won't, but if it does, I'm hoping it doesn't just fully reset. I want the fallout. I want Kamala trying to wake people up. I want the zombies creeping back into the illusion. And I want Wanda's vision challenged. That could be iconic and memorable. But as I always say, that's just me. You guys watched it too. Did Marvel Zombies deliver, or was it just a cool idea that couldn't finish strong? Or maybe you're the one individual in the world who thought it was absolutely perfect. Let me know.
Too much money, I'm feeling